where we started.
We do the pledge?
No.
No, I haven't done the pledge. Well, I would get Joe to do the pledge. Dave, you want to do the pledge?
You want to start?
Yeah, come up here and do the pledge.
Everybody rise. And we'll all face the flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You all know we have a radio show on Saturday nights. It's also going to be turned into a podcast. So you'll be able to pick it up anytime you want. Just go to the internet and the show will be on there. And it's also going to be expanded to 2 nights, 2 shows. The show that we do on Saturday night is going to be shown as a podcast, and we're doing a second show that won't be on Saturday night, that will also be on the podcast. The second show may also be a television type presentation. Okay. Now, as you know, the Maryland General Asylum is in session right now. And things look very rough. Things look very bad. We have a deficit of $1 billion this year, a deficit of $3 billion next year. They have a $3 billion deficit also on transportation. The climate people want $1 billion a year to fight climate, and the governor has made the commitment. He's going to provide them with $1 billion. So we have a lot of financial problems. Now, the governor said that he is not going to increase taxes to cover it, but he has increased $1 billion in bonds for funding. Same as a tax, because we got to pay for it. So we have a lot of problems financially, and they're coming up with a solution. There's a group in Annapolis that are putting together a proposal for $2 billion in new taxes. So they want us to pay for their mistakes. The leaders in the General Assembly have already said publicly, in their own language is different than mine, but what they have said is, we ain't passing nothing. All right? Their revision is they think this criminal stuff is okay. They don't want, they're all pro-criminal politicians, and it's going to be very tough to get anything at all passed. Our next event, by the way, is on June the 29th at the POE'S Island Brewing Company. It's called the Stop Crime Freedom Rally. And a lot of people are going to be there, the chief of police, the state's attorney, all the superstars of law enforcement are going to be at this event. And the thing about it is that the crime issue affects and impacts our freedom. Think about it. Nobody realizes that, but think about it. It destroys your freedom to go downtown, to maybe walk in your neighborhood, to wait in your community. It destroys your freedom if you're a business owner and you want to run your business in a free enterprise system without having criminals come in and loot and steal from your business. It destroys the freedom of your children to walk the streets and to go to school. It is an anti-freedom situation. It destroys our freedom. The crime issue destroys our freedom. So we're going to have a rally, and we're going to base it on freedom. Just make a couple comments about the presidential election.
All right.
I started a thing that's on our Facebook called PAT McDONOUGh Predicts. So I'm predicting that Trump is going to win this election.
Yes.
And I want a couple of things that are being said. For example, Republicans get this in their mind. I don't know why they do, but I heard it the other day at the Republican Women's Club. We got to watch out for Michelle. Let me clue you in on Michelle, okay? Michelle makes $20 million a year. Michelle is not going to run for president to make $400,000 a year, have the media all over her case, and have to go in front of the Senate and testify. And when she can travel to Paris, Europe, Switzerland, go talk to Bono, or be glorified at the University of California, Michelle is not interested in stepping down and becoming president. So forget about that. If that got into your Republican brain, get it out of there, okay? I'll tell you another thing. Biden is not getting out of this race. There's no way Biden is getting out of this race. He's the president of the United States. He controls the controls that too. He controls the Democrat National Committee. He controls all the money. The money guys won't let him get out of the race. But the big news, and we're going to introduce my friend Dave Wallace here in a little while, but the big news is that Dutch Ruppersberger has retired. Now we could applaud on that, that's a good applaud line, but Johnny Olszewski is entering the race.
No.
Now when I ran against Johnny Olszewski, I don't remember, some of you were there, do you remember him saying I'm only going to serve 2 years? Did anybody hear that? I think I missed that one. But I want you to elect me for 4, but I'm only going to serve 2. But anyway, so he's going to get in the race. But a guy by the name of Harry Bandini, I think. What is his name, Joe? How does he say it?
Bandari.
Harry Bandari, who is a state legislator and is a member of a tremendous, wonderful community of people, the Nepalese.
Yeah.
Nepalese people. They're from the country that's next to China, unfortunately, up around Mount Everest. What's the name of that animal that lives up there? Yeti. The Yetis live.
Yeti, yeah.
Yeah. So they have a ton of money. These are business people from all over the country. I understand that Harry is traveling to Texas
Right, he's having a fundraiser.
for a fundraiser. So Johnny O may not have it as easy as he thinks, because Harry is a smart guy from a great community. Harry may wind up with a couple $1 million that Johnny O doesn't know is coming, and then Johnny has to run with his record. Run with his record. All right, so Biden's staying in the race. We'll jump from Johnny O to Biden. Nice combination. Biden's not going anywhere, and I hate to tell you something. The economy is getting better. The interest rates are going to come down by 2 points by June. The inflation is going to be down to 1 or 2%. Consumer spending in the last month was the highest ever, which is the backbone of the economy. So we're going to see economic change this summer, which is going to benefit Biden, okay? Will he do anything about the border? Well, they're trying to do something about the border, something. Whether he'll get a benefit out of that if they pass or not, I don't know, but I wouldn't take Biden for granted. And the thing I tell about Donald Trump in Maryland, Valerie worked for Donald Trump. She coordinated Baltimore County for Donald Trump. But I'll tell you this, the Republican Party in America, they have this bad habit of, if they believe you're not a sure winner, they won't give you a dime. They will, right, Joe? They will ignore you like you don't exist. Stupid politics, okay? In Maryland, the Maryland Republican Party does the same thing. All right? Now, Trump said that he wants to not only win the election, which I believe he will. America's ready for this guy. He's going to put a message out there about the people in this country and how he's for the people and how Biden and the Grand Masters are destroying this country. He's going to have a great message, and I think he's going to win. But in Maryland, Trump said he wants to win the popular vote in the country. The Republicans are losing the popular vote, 8 straight elections. And one of the reasons is that in states like Maryland, the National Republican Party will not invest a dime. The state party will not invest a dime. But if Trump got an extra 200,000 votes in Maryland, even though he wouldn't win, that would add up for all the Marylands in America. How many Marylands are there in America? That votes would add up, and we would win the popular vote. So what I'm trying to do, and I'm talking to the National Party, is let's have a Trump campaign in Maryland. We need to have a Trump campaign in Maryland, and we need to have money in Maryland for Trump, because we have some good candidates that are Republicans that have a shot. We have a shot at 2 congressional seats. We can add 2 new congressional seats. Dan Cox is running in David Trone's old district in Western Maryland. Dan Cox won that district when he ran for governor. Got 650,000 votes for governor. He won Trone's district for governor. So he could win that congressional seat. And I think the 2nd congressional seat with Dutch out and with Bandari fighting with Olszewski and spending money, I think that a Republican could win that seat. And I think we have a good Republican that could run and win that seat. And we'll talk with him in a few minutes. So I just wanted to say a few things that were on my mind. And also, finally, political news prediction. You're not going to like this one. The mayor is going to be reelected. The mayor will be reelected. Now, you're going to say, why do you believe that? Here's why. The mayor has 10 opponents. The mayor only needs 35% of the vote, and he will get that. He has the money, the experience, and the name recognition, and the power to get 35% of the votes. Now, the other thing about that is you have 10 candidates. They all split the vote. Elections are all about mathematics. One of the things they need to change in Baltimore City is what you call a runoff election. Atlanta, Chicago, all the big cities have this. This is where if you can't get more than 50% of the vote, you can't win. You have to run against the runner-up, the second person, in another election 3 months later. Now, in Baltimore, 4 years ago, they passed a charter amendment. You only need 10,000 signatures for a charter amendment in Baltimore City and in Baltimore County. But they passed where limited to council members and the mayor are limited to 2 terms. Remember that? They filed lawsuits, the politicians, they didn't like that. This year, they have another charter amendment. I asked them, I said, next year, put a charter amendment up on a runoff election. 10,000 signatures and have a runoff election. Final thing, the Baltimore Sun.
All right.
Praise Jesus. There are miracles. Now, I happen to know David Smith, and I happen to know Armstrong Williams very well. Now, Armstrong Williams is a great guy. And I can assure you that a month from now, clueless Danny Rodricks will be unemployed and looking for a job. The editors will leave. They're not going to want to be there. And maybe they will get rid of that creepy cartoonist. You know?
Oh, yeah.
So the paper will go through a transition. David Smith will burn it down if it was up to him, but he won't be the hands-on guy. Armstrong Williams will be the hands-on guy. And Armstrong is a strong conservative, and he will eventually change. And I'm working with a group for September the 28th. It's called the Maryland Business Forum. The goal of the Maryland Business Forum is to make Maryland a pro-business state.
Yeah.
I was with a guy last night from the Maryland Chamber, and he said, "You must be crazy." I said, "Well, we have an agenda. There are 700 business owners in Maryland. I think we could get something done, you know." So that's going to be, and Armstrong Williams will be our keynote speaker at that event. And it's nonpartisan. Democrats want a pro-business state too. And Brooke Learman, state controller, will be a keynote speaker. So that's going to be a big event. All right, let's take some questions now. And then I'm going to have another guest speaker, come up and say a few words. This lady right here.
Isn't it true that the son really helped to get the mayor into his job? And if now the son is being bought by other people, and they have better wording come out, who they think is a better person for the state of Maryland, will that help us in any way?
Well, first of all, the Sun is not going to endorse any candidate for any office. That's their policy. Now, that's the new policy, okay? I think it's going to take about 3 months for the Sun to completely clean house and change, the patterns of what's, a lot of the reporters and mainly the editors are going to flee out of there and try to go to the Banner and get a job. But Armstrong Williams is going to take probably 3 months. Dan Roderick's is going to be the first one to go. I assure you, he's going to be the first one to go. So, yeah, of course, the Sun paper has had tremendous influence over political elections everywhere, and they've always heard us. Andy Harris has a letter in the Sun today attacking Dan Roderick, saying how biased he's been, and it's a great letter. If you get the Sun, read it. It's a great letter how biased Dan Roderick has been against Republicans in general. So that was good at that time, because he used to attack, he'd attack Andy Harris every week, for different, but he never attacks Dutch Rupersberger, or he never attacks John Sarbanes. So I think we're going to win that seat. Dan Cox is going to win that seat, and I think we have a shot in the 2nd district. Before I bring up since our guest speaker is not here, I'm going to bring somebody up to say a few words. But are there any other questions that anybody has? Yeah, Rob.
Yes, sir, I do have one for you. I listen to your show, and I also listen to the conservative people on B.A.L., your competitor, I have to be honest. And they have both discussed Kerwin. Can you tell us the horrible impact that this is going to have on taxes? Understand that they say it's going to be a big burden on us financially. And also tell us, who is Kerwin? Can you explain that, please?
Yeah, well, Kerwin is a bill that was passed to support and help education. In other words, only 10% of our kids can read and write when they get out of school. Kerwin's going to increase it to 15%. So, but it costs us $3 billion a year. Now, it's so bad, the locals have to pay part of it. Last year, Mayor Squeegee, when he found out the city had to pay $80 million into Kerwin, he was shocked. He tried to get his friend the governor to reduce it, but no. So now, because they are out of the budget, they're in big trouble. This budget, this governor, who would be president, this failure, who Valerie lovingly calls the smiling turtle, is gotten us into big trouble financially. And he's going to be a failure. He's a failure on crime, he's a failure on education, he's a failure on budget, he's a failure on our money. And they have a bunch down there who want to pass some bad taxes, $2 billion. $2 billion. Right now, the governor and the president of the Senate are saying we're not passing any taxes. That's this year. Wait till next year. What about your property taxes? Have you gotten your property tax announcements? Ours was up, what, how much, Valerie?
40,000.
40,000.
But I did have a friend of mine, it was 139,000, so imagine what that was.
Yeah, and also if you live where we live in Middle River, if you live on the water, now you can't get insurance on your house. Climate, that's right.
Mine went up 72,000.
It's cheap. I mean,
Or you
they
have
got to pay for that.
gas. Oh, yeah.
They got to pay for their blunders. So those increases are the first step. This $2 billion package, I don't think it's going to go away, so that's going to be rough. But anyway, this congressional race in the 2nd district, now I ran there a couple of years ago, and people say, well, forget about that race. I got 38% of the vote. Dutch had $2 million, I had 2 cents. But the one that irritates me is the county executive's race. I got 97,000 votes. 4 years ago, that would have won the election. Now, there's a group of women, very good women, smart women over in Montgomery County who are looking at voter integrity, right? They did some kind of survey where they looked at each county in Maryland and how much the Democrat vote increased from 4 years ago. Montgomery County had a 9% increase in Democrat turnout. Prince George's County had a 10% increase in voter turnout from 4 years ago. Baltimore County, where I ran, had a 34% increase in Democrat vote. Now, where did that come from? Where did that come from? So anyway, but second congressional district, big issues in Congress. Second congressional district has a lot of Carroll County in it. It has a lot of conservative Democrats in it. I think it's ready for change. And I think Johnny Olszewski's going to be in a tough fight with this young fella that's from the House of Delegates and his money. And he's going to come out of that May primary a little beat up, a little battered, and a little broke. And if we have a good Republican candidate, we are going to have a good chance of winning that congressional district.
Is Nicolene thinking about running again?
Nicolee's out,
Oh, okay.
not running.
Okay, that's a
She
shame.
spent $2 million and got 40% of the vote. That's it. But no, as far as I know, she's not running. There's only 5 more days, I think, where you can file. Only one person has filed. And this is the guy that ran second to Nicolee. Ran right behind her. And he's running again, and he's from Carroll County. And he's a small business owner, successful small business owner. And I like him.
John.
I want us to take a good look at this guy because this guy could win that congressional seat. And he's a good conservative. He's not an American, he is an illegal alien, but
What's your view on what we're trying to do with the Inner Harbor?
I don't care about the Inner Harbor. I'm introducing our next congressman. But I'll answer the question later, thank you. I want you all to listen to him, what he has to say, because I think he could be our next congressman. The fact that he's a business owner, I like that. I'm a business owner. Anybody here's a business owner, you know we're having a tough time. But I want to introduce you to Dave Wallace, who's from Carroll County.
Pat, I appreciate your introduction, and
Even the alien department.
well, that was especially good, because we have to be truthful with everybody. Scotty, you could let me stay down here for a few days? Okay, good. So, that was a Star Trek reference, if you didn't get it. I'm Dave Wallace. Thank you all for coming out today. Pat McDonough has forged the way for so many of us to be able to speak our minds, because we can hear him on the radio. When we hear the news come through Pat and we realize we're not making a mistake. When we used to listen to Rush Limbaugh and we'd say, oh my gosh, this is the voice of reason. Well, today we don't have the voices of reason. We have insanity. We don't have common sense anymore. We have nonsense. All of these things that are going on in our country, people say, well, it must be a mistake. It must be a mistake. It isn't a mistake. This is the plan of the left. And as Mark Levin says, the Democrats hate America. When people spell DEI, they're spelling DIE. Don't follow their narrative. This is all about Marxism, cultural Marxism. The first way you destroy a society is to destroy culture. And what are they doing? They're indoctrinating our children. They're destroying our children's lives. Everything we've worked for is based on our families and the love of our children. We have to put our children first. And that means we have to protect our children from those people who want to use our children as instruments to destroy our society. Because in just a few precious years that are fleeting, our children are no longer our children. But during those years, we have to empower parents to be able to control what our children see, how our children act, so we can make sure they behave and they learn the right path. And that includes the fundamental element of our country, which is our Judeo-Christian society. And that is the philosophy of our government, while we remain a secular society. And upon that foundation, those footers, those foundations, those are the principles that we need to apply to every aspect of our economy, to every aspect of our culture, to every aspect of our safety and security. Once we do that, and we get back to basics, and we get done praying about it, as a good friend of mine reminds me about George Washington, we get up from kneeling, and then we get to work, and we engage, and we make sure that we can fight for this America. So today, I'm asking you all to help me and help yourselves by working to restore America's mission so that we can fundamentally correct this course that we're going on, which is going to destroy our society, destroy our economy, and destroy our safety. The first thing we have to do is eliminate an open border. We're actually begging for people to come into the country today. We have to say no more. Crime is rampant. Much of it's being caused by illegal aliens and resettlement from countries from which we don't even know. I don't know exactly how much time we have. I don't want to make it long. I'm a science guy. I worked at NIH. I understand what happened with coronavirus from beginning to end. I'm a businessman. I'm a policy guy. I run Fair Energy Foundation. They're not going to take our energy away from us. I really appreciate you all being here today. If there are any questions after the meeting or whenever Pat gives me an opportunity, I'd love to come back, talk to you after this meeting or in the future. I want to thank you all for giving me this moment during your meeting to speak to you all. And if you could go to my website, davewallace.us. And when Pat said we can win, as long as we have a fair election and everybody turns out, and we bring in Republicans and Democrats and independent voters, we're going to win. I got 51% against Chris Van Hollen. 51% until they flooded it with votes that are very dubious, to say the least, because Montgomery County, which was the last county applying their votes, brought in ballots beyond what the census says they even had to offer, because they have 104% registered voter plus. It's about almost 105%. And most jurisdictions only have 65%. So where are all those extra voters coming from? They're in the back pocket based on Linda Lamone never clearing the voting rolls, but we're cleaning them up now. I'm working with Robin Sachs. She's a very good confidant of mine. I've been supportive of her actions to clean up the voter rolls. And I'm working with some of the best economists in the country to cap spending, because taxes are not the problem. We don't have to raise taxes. We have to curtail and cut spending. And whether it's the budget, your home budget, whether it's your safety here in Towson, we've got to get going. And with your help, we're going to do it. And I know for a fact I am a courageous, happy optimist. And we're all going to win this thing because we're all going to pull together. And let's restore America's mission. Thank you very much.
It would certainly be exciting to have a nice guy as a congressman, right? Two things. I don't want to answer that gentleman. I don't think that plan's ever going to go through. I think it's going to be stopped. The second thing is last week I filled in for Kim
Klasek.
and I'll be filling in again on Wednesday, so I'm now her official fill-in.
Yay! Yay!